We have reached the end of the summer audioblog series here on Homeschool Conversations with Humility and Doxology. Today's guest podcaster is Sara Jordan, and you'll be able to tell quickly why I chose hers to round out the summer audioblog season. We can kick off the new school year with a lot of ideals, and sometimes we just need the confessions of a real-life homeschool mom to put some things into perspective. You're not going to want to miss Season 6 of the podcast, so be sure you've subscribed in your podcast app. Our very first episode is actually going to be an Ask Me Anything episode. I did this last season. It was a lot of fun, so if you have any questions for me about homeschooling or really anything else, send me an email. amy@humilityanddoxology.com. Let me know your questions and I will try to answer them. Thanks so much for being a part of this fun summer series. Be sure to check the show notes to find out more about Sara and about this podcast. Do you remember thinking history was boring as you fell asleep over dry textbooks and meaningless bits of information? Have you been hearing that your children are supposed to memorize large chunks of history dates, fill out extensive timelines, or complete stacks of worksheets to prove they've really learned their history facts? Well, I'm here to tell you that it does not have to be that way in your homeschool. Homeschool history can be fun. It's not just dates and dead people. You can craft your own customized textbook-free history plan to use with many ages in a simple, fun, joyful way in your homeschool. And I have a textbook-free history masterclass to show you how. It's a 45-minute video masterclass and a 12-page e-booklet, plus I have lots of links to other resources that you may find helpful, and I share a lot of my own personal stories as a second-generation homeschool mom of 5. So head over to humilityanddoxology.com/shop and check out the textbook-free history masterclass, and as a podcast listener, use code PODCAST for $5 off.
Confessions of a Homeschool Mom by Sara Jordan. I have a few confessions to make as a homeschool mom. Our days don't always go as I planned them or as I'd envisioned them to be before I actually started homeschooling for real. Having worked in a Montessori school, BC, of course BC stands for Before Children, I imagined a nice, neat little classroom full of brightly colored manipulatives, cute little tables and chairs, and everything in its place in orderly bins in little cubbies. Doesn't that sound wonderful? Now I need to take a deep breath and remind myself, I will not covet my neighbor's organizational skills or her budget to buy all that cool stuff we can't afford and we don't have the space for. Reality check. When school is home and home is school, there's bound to be a little chaos. At least in my experience there is. Can you relate to any of the following things? Sometimes math is delayed because we can't find the math manipulatives. Usually because the preschooler has run off with them to see how many she can stuff in her purse. Does that count as math time? Sometimes we don't finish one lap book before starting another just because we've lost interest in the first one. I hope this isn't too shocking for you. But sometimes that book or curriculum we just had to have right now sits on the shelf for a few months before we actually get around to starting it. Sometimes the only shoes I wear for days are my favorite comfy slippers. No, I don't stay in my jammies all day. What do you think yoga pants are for? Yoga? You've got to be kidding me. Sometimes I read other homeschool blogs and marvel, how does she do it all? And why can't I? That's when it gets serious. We are each uniquely called to homeschooling for many different reasons. God put us each in our special place and time with our individual children for a specific purpose. Your kids aren't mine, and mine aren't yours, for a very important reason. God has a plan. Who are we to second guess it? I thank God His mercies are new every day because I sure need Him. I also thank Him for the precious gifts of my children and the privilege I have in educating them at home, even when real life homeschooling isn't easy. So, if this resonates with you, let me know. Is homeschooling in real life going smoothly for you? Or have you learned to be flexible and let go of some of those expectations to trade in for the wonderful reality of the moments we have right now?
Thanks so much for listening to the Homeschool Conversations audioblog series. I'm so thankful for each of the guests who are sharing their ideas with us this summer. Check the show notes to find more resources from today's guest. And would you please take a moment to leave a rating and review for this podcast in your app? It really helps other homeschool parents find the show. Would you like a copy of my free homeschool planning guide? Head to humilityandoxology.com/homeschool-planning-guide or check the link in the show notes for this episode. I'm busy recording more scintillating interviews for season 6 of the podcast. But in the meantime, there are so many fabulous episodes you can catch up on this summer. Check today's show notes to see this week's podcast replay suggestion.